Well, hello there. Remember the other day I spoke to you about this little camera here, which is the Insta360 ACE PRO, and how I was using a variable ND filter. Well, you know how bad the results were from that. Well, I've decided to experiment a little bit more, do a little bit more research in why the images turned out so bad. Remember, the face was rather blown out and my hands were blown out. Well, on here sorry, sort my feet out. It's kicking the tripod. Now, what I had on here, I had face tracking on, so it only exposed for my face. So it didn't take any compensation for the background, lighting in the background or anything like that. And so I've changed everything on here now. Not only have I got a stronger variable ND filter, instead of the ND 2 to 32, I've got a 2 to 64 now. So we'll see if that makes any difference. And apart from turning off the face tracking, and I've now used the whole area of the sensor to set the sensitivity of, or the exposure of the film, it's a video, to accept the exposure of the footage. I've also set the ISO to 100, and I've also changed the white balance to 5000 Kelvin. So we'll see if that makes any difference. Of course, we'll go through the same procedure as I did last time, which was to adjust the neutral density of this filter so that I get what looks like a decent image on the screen. So I'm just going to flip out the screen now anyway, because this is what I'm going to use later. So that's what I'm going to be looking at. There's the screen there, and then I'm going to adjust these knobs to get me the correct neutral density so that my footage isn't too blown out. And we'll see if I can make some adjustment. So what I'll do is I'll go through this every time I use this one. I'm going to make two sets of footage in between. So I'm going to use one with HDR switched on, and the same one with the same settings with HDR switched off. So I'll see you on the next camera. Well, hello there. Just going to set the variable ND filter to somewhere where I think it should be. So how's that? That should be about right. Now, I'm currently using a 2 to 64 ND filter. Now it's set quite high, so it's probably in the region of about 64 at the moment, an ND 64. So I've got HDR on, so we'll see how that goes. One of the few settings that I've also fiddled about with is that I've gone from automatic to mostly manual. So I've got the frame rate set to 25 frames per second. I've got the shutter speed set to 1/50th of a second. I've got the white balance set to 5000 Kelvin, and I've got the ISO set to 100. I've also got the EV comp set to -0.5. So we'll see how that goes. It was last time, it was very blown out. I was only using an ND 32, and I also had face priority on, which meant that only my face was setting the sensitivity or the exposure of the footage. So we'll see what's going like now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm coming up to 1 minute 30. I'm going to switch over. I'm going to turn HDR off and see how we go from there. And I'm back, and I've got HDR turned off. It does look rather darker, so I might have to adjust the ND filter down a bit so that it's compensates slightly more for the fact that I haven't got the HDR setting switched on. So I don't know what the ND filter would be set at now, but it's a lot less than it was with the HDR mode switched on. So I'm still shooting at 1/50th of the second shutter speed. Frame rate is still 25. The ISO is still set to 100, and the white balance is set to 5000 Kelvin, 5000 Kelvin, and I've got the EV comp set to -0.5. So we'll see how that goes. This Insta360 ACE PRO is a real difficult camera to master. Now I've had this quite a few months now, and it's to get a decent footage out of it. It's taken me almost 6 months. Okay, I'm away at sea a lot of the time, so and I don't use it all the time simply because it's so difficult to get to know how everything is. And of course, every time I've taken footage, it's always come out different. So we'll see how it's come out now with these new settings, with HDR off and everything set to manual, to the settings I've just told you about. Anyway, so it's coming up to 1 minute 30. So let me know in the comments what you thought was best. Was it the first section of the video that was with the HDR switched on and then HDR switched off? Let's see what it looks like. Let's go inside.